Welcome to Catskill Weiss Schwarz. On today's video, I will be doing a deck profile for Makeine, Too Many Losing Heroines. This will be the first deck profile that I will be doing in a planned series of deck profiles showcasing different combos, different utility cards, that sort of thing. This first video, I think, is most likely what's going to be the most meta decks to come out of the set, featuring these two combos right here. We got the level 1 Ana combo on the left and the level 3 Ana combo on the right. While I think the set has many good combos in it at 1 and at 3, I think that this is the one that if we see it topping very much, I think this will be the one most likely to be seen. I think that the level 1 combo pictured here is easily the best level 1 combo in the set, and I think it will be very difficult for many players to pass up the level 3 combo because it's always fun being allowed to go to level 4 without dying, which this combo does. So without further ado, we will now get into the actual deck profile. So this is a set that I think has a lot going for it, and it makes it a lot of fun when building any deck in no matter what combos you're playing, because there are just a lot of good cards at pretty much every single level with this set. So it gets to a point where sometimes I found myself, at least when I was building various decks in the simulator and finally putting together cards in person to test in real life, where I was just sort of running out of space. I just kept hitting that 50 card cap too quickly, and there were cards I just had to leave on the cutting room floor. So anything that is here is not indicative of all the best cards in the set. There are a lot of cards that just had to be cut and couldn't quite make it, and I am looking forward to talking about those in future videos with future deck profiles for this set. To start, we're going to start with the level zeros. I think the first card we're going to look at is a card that will pop up in most, if not all, Makeine lists just because of how powerful it is. It's 4 copies of this Tap Water Research Chica. She is a clean cut, so for anyone unfamiliar with that term, it refers to a character who has an ability that when they get a reverse, you rest one of your other characters and you move it to an open position of your backstage. It's a very standard profile that's been seen for many years now. Most sets get them. What makes this clean cut a little bit better, or maybe a lot better than most other clean cuts, is the fact that despite the fact that it says she only has 2500 power, she has a first effect that says if all of your characters are adolescents, which almost every single thing in the set is, there are only a couple of exceptions in the entire set. So if all your characters are adolescents, she gets 1000 power. That is not during your turn, that is cross turn, so she will be 3500 power all the time. As long as you just have adolescence characters, and the non-adolescence characters in this set, the cards aren't that great, so you wouldn't really be playing them anyway. A 3500 cross turn clean cut is very strong. She does come with the caveat that when she cannot become stand during your stand phase if you do not have another adolescence character. However, because she is a clean cut, she should be moving something to your back row anyway. So you will have another character. It's pretty easy to meet that condition. The only time you might really whiff on it is if your opponent is playing something that on attack or during their turn somehow they could target a character in your back row. It is something that we have seen a little bit in English. It is seen a bit more in JP. In English, we have the level 1 Milam combo from Slime, which can pop something in the back row when you do her climax combo, but we really don't have to see anything like that too often. So as long as you are able to successfully use her clean cut effect, you shouldn't have to worry about meeting that condition. And being 3500 power just cross turn is a good number for a level 0. It's a great number for a clean cut. Most of the time, clean cuts generally will get some sort of power boost on your turn that will generally cap them out at about 3000. To get one to 35, we don't see it too often. So that is really strong. There's a reason why she pops up in pretty much every Makeine list that you're going to see. She's a good color in yellow. She's a good yellow fix, but she's just a really strong going second card. Very good card overall. Next up, we have what is one of the best cards in the entire set, in my opinion. We have 4 copies of this Proud Runner Lemon. This lemon is a Ricky, so what that means is when you play her from your hand to the stage, you could pay 1, put the top card of your deck into your clock, and then you search your deck for a character. Unlike other Rickies, which generally only search for level 1 or lower characters, she searches for any adolescence character regardless of level. We do occasionally see Rickies that will let you grab any character. Typically, they will be salvage Rickies, meaning that they only grab from the waiting room. Most of the time, when you're using a Ricky, you would rather be able to grab something from your deck. The fact that she grabs any adolescence character makes her ridiculously strong. It makes her good the entire course of the game. She gives you access to your complete deck as long as you are playing adolescence characters only, which, again, you're pretty much everyone's going to do. It's a really, really strong Ricky. Definitely one of the best we've seen in a while. Just removing that level restriction but still leaving it as a search Ricky makes her incredibly strong. There is a reason why at the time of recording this video, she is the only double rare that is actually sold out on TCG Player, and there have been a lot of sales. When I checked, it was like 70 something copies have been sold or something like that, but she was sold out right before when I checked TCG Player right before making this video. She does have a secondary effect, which is during her battle, when the damage you receive is not canceled, she gets 1500 power until end of turn. I think this is a really funny effect, and it has popped up in the few games I've been able to play in person with this deck. It's popped up a couple times. It sort of forces your opponent to do some extra thinking, or at least it forces most opponents to do some extra thinking. You know, maybe they have a character that's only 2k, and they have to now decide, do I want to frontal and take the chance that maybe the lemon randomly just goes up to 3k, or maybe I just side and just let them keep their lemon. The fact that it's when the damage you receive during her battle is not canceled means that most likely, most of the time, she probably is going to get that 1500 boost. It is always funny when your opponent sides because there's a chance that they would lose the battle if you don't cancel, and then you wind up canceling. So not only did you cancel, but you still get to keep your lemon out and you got a free attacker for the next turn. It's kind of funny, and I guess that was their way of balancing it rather than just giving her 3k power all the time, or 3k power in your turn, for example. But it makes your opponent just think a bit more. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's really that, it shouldn't be that big of a decision. Just either take the chance in front or just side. Just, you know, some people, though, they overthink it. And once they start doing that at level 0 with your level 0 Rickies, you're probably in a pretty good spot. You're just distracting them. So it's a little bit of a mind game thing. It really isn't that big of a deal. That is not why this card is good. It's kind of just more of a funny thing that I found pops up a bit more than you would think. And I have just randomly seen that people get caught off guard by it. But it's a very, very strong card. It's just really great. It's another 4 of in pretty much every Makeine deck that you're ever going to see. Really, really good overall. Next up, I have 3 copies of this Basking in the Midsummer Sun Lemon. This was a pretty recent addition to the deck. This was actually not in the main booster. This is given out for weekly tournaments as a promo pack. Or just if you get the promo pack, if you win your local tournament, you have the chance. You either get the foil version that's here, or you can get the PR Plus version, and it's also the monthly promo where you're supposed to get it just for entering a weekly locals for Weiss. So she's not in the main booster pack, but she is actually a very good card. When she attacks, you pick one of your other character or one of your characters. It can be yourself, and that character gets 1000 power until end of turn. Her other effect is a very standard effect, but not a bad effect at all. When she goes from stage to waiting room, you could discard a card, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, pick one level 1 or higher card from among them, reveal it to your opponent, send the rest to waiting room, and you add the level 1 or higher card to your hand. So it's an effect, for anyone familiar with Weiss, Most sets get this sort of effect. It's an effect that's been around a long time. Usually they're paired with some sort of secondary effect. Very often they're paired with some sort of secondary effect like this one that just sort of gives power, whether that's on play or on attack. Standard profile, but it's sort of a if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of thing. I will say that I have thought about maybe trying to cut this card and maybe throw in 3 utility cards instead. I still need to do a lot more testing, but this card absolutely did not do anything wrong when I have tested it both in the simulator and in real life so far. It seems maybe a tad boring compared to some of the other really interesting cards in the set, but it's a really great going first card. You just throw her out, and then when she dies the following turn, you dig 4 cards deeper to your level 1 combo ideally. Good card overall. It's stockless deck speed. If you're in a weird deck state or a bad deck state, it's never a bad thing to just throw out a copy of her and just crash with her. That way you get, for 0 stock, you get to go through 4 cards, up to 4 cards of your deck. She does also grab any events, since events will be level 1 or higher. That is always nice. There is always a chance that she could whiff and you just see a bunch of zeros or climaxes, and that would be disappointing. But it's a chance you take, and most of the time you're going to see at least one level 1 or higher card. It's always cool to pump your clean cut by an extra 1,000 so that she will be at least 45 if she doesn't have any other buffs with her. And at that point, you can start using your clean cut to get reverses on even some level 1 combos that are kind of weak defensively, which level 1 combos these days are starting to get a little weaker defensively, and oftentimes might only be 3k 35 defensively. So it is great when your clean cut can just get over them on its own, but also being 45 with this buff. It's just a decent enough card overall. If I did have to cut something to maybe add in some different level zeros, mostly some like tech options, she would probably be the first card that I start cutting, but she is definitely not a bad card. It is kind of a shame that they did not put her in the main booster, because she is a card that I think is an important card. It's an important profile to have access to, even if it's not played in every list, or the most meta builds for any set. I think when a set has that profile, it's nice to be able to just splash it into anything. And the fact that she isn't actually in the pack, but you have to go to tournaments, which a lot of people do not have access to, since Weiss is a little more. It's a game where it can be tough to find locals sometimes, which I definitely know from experience. So that is a little bit of a shame. Of course, you could always just buy them online, but still, definitely a good card that's worth picking up and just having, and definitely trying some things out with. Again, she is yellow. So far, the first 11 cards we've looked at for zeros are yellow. Yellow is a very strong color in the set. A lot of the really interesting or powerful cards are in yellow, so that really is just a bonus, the fact that she is yellow, because she easily finds her way into most likely what are going to be the most meta builds of Makeine. Next up, we have 3 copies of this Say Anna. This is a very, very simple card, but it's a very strong card. It's one of my favorite profiles ever. When you play her from your hand to the stage, you may discard any card, then reveal the top card of your deck, and then you salvage a level X or lower character from your waiting room. X is equal to the level of the revealed card. So this profile is commonly referred to as a Rico. It's just stockless, sort of just hand filtering. It's a great way to get cards you don't want or don't need at that moment in your hand, and sort of just trade them for playable characters. At the worst, you'll just be grabbing zeros, but we have a really, really great zero lineup in this deck and in this set as a whole. So it's just an easy way to grab your Brainstorm or grab your Ricky or whatever. And sometimes, you'll see level 1s or 2s or 3s, and it feels really great when you see your level 3s and you just, for no stock, no real hand, you just grab your level 3 combo, for example. She has no secondary effect. A lot of Ricos nowadays they're not really getting secondary effects so much. Sometimes they do, but this one doesn't. I think it's fine. 1k, the power is sort of irrelevant. Just a really, really great card. There are times where a lot of people will only play 2 or 3 copies of a Rico. In this list, after testing, for whatever reason, I found that it was something that I wanted almost every turn. I think it was because there are just so many great zeros in this set that I constantly wanted to be able to just grab them guaranteed without having a hit on a brainstorm or something like that. So I thought about upping this to 4. Probably doesn't need it right now, but it's a really, really great card that I think will also find its way into most Makeine lists, regardless of what combos you play. Next up, I have 3 copies of this Die Hard Brother Devotee Kaju. This is the main character's little sister in the show, so she's a little sister character and little sister trope and all that. However, her first effect is really, really great. She is a double drop searcher, which is a profile that we don't see often enough, and I really wish we did. Some sets get them, many sets do not. It's a really fantastic profile in my opinion. What it does is during the turn that you play her out from your hand to the stage, when she attacks, you may pay 1 stock, discard any 2 cards from your hand. If you do, you search your deck for up to 2 Adolescence characters, reveal them to your opponent, add them to your hand, and shuffle your deck. So this is a really great way where for 1 stock, you have enormous selectivity and you grab any 2 characters, any 2 Adolescence characters from your deck to your hand. Really, really strong. Feels really, really great when you're going second and you just attack with something else first, and then you can just use her effect. You'll have the stock you need at that point, and you can grab 2 copies of your level 1 combo. The fact that she is not level locked means that she does maintain her value throughout the course of the game. So maybe on your first deck, you weren't able to pick up all of your level 3 pieces. She's a really great way that once you hit refresh, she still maintains her value, and she could then just start grabbing stuff right after that point. She is a really great way also because she activates during your attack phase when she attacks. She's a great way to help keep your stock clean. So generally what I'll do most of the time is I will attack with her either last or rarely ever first, even if I have the stock to pay for it, just because if I trigger a climax with one of my first attackers, she's a great way to immediately pay it out. So not only do you get the benefit of triggering whatever climax you triggered, but you also get to pay it out while thinning your deck by 2 cards, which helps your compression a little bit, but also getting really good selectivity. Now, she does have a second effect, which is relevant in certain lists. It is not relevant in this list specifically because it does require a resonate of a character that I'm not playing in this list, though I do play different Makeine decks that do play that character. So she resonates with her big brother. It's a level 0 yellow card that is basically a helmet that you use in your hand. At the start of your climax phase, if you reveal that level 0, then she gets +1 soul until end of turn. Very often we see double drop searchers not have any secondary effect. So while this is a secondary effect that only pops up and is only usable if you are playing the Big Brother card, which most of Kaju's cards do require you to resonate with that specific card, and it's not necessarily a bad card. It's nice to have that secondary effect. Pushing soul early is always nice. I wouldn't say for this build it's worth throwing a copy in of that card just so that you could use this resonate ability. It's more like you play this card because the first effect is so strong, and if you happen to be playing a list where you really need that level 0 Big Brother card, then it's just a bonus to have both effects on one card. So it's a good card. I could potentially try upping it to 4, but I think 3 is a good number. It's something that I don't want to see going first, but I always want to see it on my second turn for sure. Really, really good overall. Next up, I have 2 copies of this Soaring Appetite Ana. This should be 3 copies. I got my 3rd copy, it just hasn't come in yet. So until my 3rd copy comes in, I have just been playing 1 copy of this Literature Club Girl Chica. Both of these are salvage brainstorms, so pay 1, rest them to mill the top 4 cards of your deck. For every climax that you mill, salvage 1 character in your waiting room. This Chica is not a bad card on its own, even though she will be being replaced soon in this list. She also has a secondary effect where you can pay 2 stock, rest her to heal 1. Being able to heal as early as level 0 is always a nice option. This is a sort of effect that we have seen for a while now, we don't often see it tied to a useful card like a Brainstorm. Our Ferretta does have this exact profile, just in a different color, and it works really well in that list. But we do see the pay to rest heal on a level 0 often enough, but having it tied to a Brainstorm I think is just really fantastic. So it's definitely a card that I play in other lists. The reason why I am preferring to play 3 copies of the Soaring Appetite Ana instead of more copies of the Chica, or keeping this split once I get my 3rd copy in, is because this Ana has a first effect that is very, very, very strong. When I first read it, I thought it was good. I didn't think it was like necessarily amazing. Now that I have played it a lot more, it is just so phenomenal, like 99% of the time. What it does is once per turn, when your other character becomes reversed, if you have 2 or more other adolescence characters, you may draw 1 card. If you do, discard a card. It sounds very simple up front, but it's a really great way to give you some selective deck speed during your attack phase, which can come up. It works on your turn as well as your opponent's turn. The effect does stack, so you have 2 copies of her out, or more than that. You can do it once for each. She does come with this, I believe that in English, Makeine is the first set to get this new once per turn. This little blue box here that says once per turn. Previously, when cards would say, we had cards like this before where they would say once per turn, and what would happen was, with the previous language, if you had a card that said something like once per turn, when you meet a certain condition, for example, you get to do something. What would happen generally is that if you chose not to do the thing, you would lose out on using the effect later that turn. It was sort of a, you had to do it the first time you could. And if you chose not to, then that's fine, but you don't get to use it if you meet the condition later on in that same turn. With this new once per turn little blue box there, the way that it's ruled is that if you meet the condition at one point during your turn, if you choose not to use it, you still have the option to use it later in the turn, which is really, really great. It's always nice to have that sort of selectivity, and for a card to be so modular. This card, though, it just is so good. It's a salvage brainstorm, which is always great. Salvage is generally better than search, but that whole draw ditch effect when a character gets reversed and being able to choose when you do it during your battle phase, it has come up so many times. It's a great way to get a little bit of extra deck speed if you need it. Sometimes you don't, but sometimes it's really helpful. I have been in games where I've had bad deck states where I knew I was just out of climaxes, but I had like 2 copies of this on my board, and on my first reverse on my opponent's turn, I ate some damage, but then I got they reversed my character, and I had 2 cards left in my deck, or 3 cards left in my deck, and I just used both of them right away, dug 2 cards closer to a new deck, and started canceling sooner than if I didn't have that option. It's a great way to just filter out cards you do not need, especially if you have extra climaxes in your hand. If you've got a whole bunch of extra climaxes, you don't really care about the fact that your draw isn't really selective because it's pretty random, but you do care about getting those climaxes out of your hand. And being able to just do that because you have a brainstormer on board that just says you get to do that is really, really great. I use this effect all the time. Sometimes it does dig you 1 card closer to a climax. It always feels really great when your opponent does a swing, they get a reverse, you choose to use it, you draw a card, then your opponent does their next swing, and then you cancel purely because you dug yourself 1 card closer, and if you hadn't, you would not have canceled. It always feels great when that happens. Sometimes you will draw a climax when you don't want to off of this effect, and now you don't get to cancel with that climax. However, there are other times where I have been missing my climax, and this card, I wanted to draw my climax because I needed it for the follow-up turn, and sure enough, this card let me do that. This card has actually been so strong that I have pretty much already decided that I'm just going to add a 4th copy in. My 3rd copy is already on the way. I'm just going to order the 4th copy, and I think I will just have 4 copies of this brainstorm. Typically in most decks that I build, though there are exceptions, I'm not someone who relies too heavily on brainstorms. I like them as an option. They are really important cards, and I always do play a brainstorm no matter what deck I'm playing. A lot of the time, though, I might only play 2 copies of a brainstorm because I try not to be too reliant on them, especially not to get advantage. I prefer not to do that. But sometimes brainstorms are just so good and they work so well with certain decks where I have just maxed out on 4 copies. Something like Bane Dream, for example, the new Soya Brainstorm and Bane Dream was so good. I play 4 copies of it in every single Bane Dream list that I build. This Ana, I think, is up there as one of the best brainstorms we've gotten in a while. If it sounds simple, like just hearing, oh, draw a ditch when you get a reverse. In practice, it just works so well. It feels so great. She is something that I have learned through testing in person that I want 2 copies of her in my back row as early as possible every single game and just let them sit there. Really, really strong card overall. Blue, she has a little bit of blue fix. Blue is a good color in the set, not as good as yellow, but blue is definitely the second best color I think in the entire Makeine set. Unless you're playing mono green. Every color has some sort of brainstorm in this set, whether it's yellow, blue, green, or red. I think this is easily the best one, and unless a particular deck really needs a certain color that's not blue, or is only a monocolored deck that's not blue, I think this is very much easily just the brainstorm of choice for any list. It just works so well, feels so strong, and I'm very excited to up my ratios for that because it's just so great. Plus, it features the best girl in the show, so that is always a plus. Lastly, for the level zeros, have 1 copy of this trial deck card, 1 copy of this Ana. She's very simple. She is a climax swapper, so when you play her out from your hand to the stage, you can pay 1, discard a climax, and if you do, you get to choose a climax in your waiting room and add it to hand. She also has a secondary effect where when she becomes reversed, if her battle opponent is level 0 or lower, you may put that character at the bottom of your opponent's deck. This is sort of something that Bushiroad has been doing for a while now. Probably, like, I don't know, could be maybe the last year and a half or so, where very often we have started getting our climax swappers in the trial deck, which is a choice for sure. However, they have typically been paired with a secondary ability, depending on the color, that basically makes them some sort of level 0 bomb, which is not a bad thing to have stapled to a climax swapper. The type of bomb will vary depending on the color. Red will be a reverser, yellow will be a stock bomb, green will be a clock bomb, and blue will typically be a bottom decker like this one is. But we have started seeing it more often. You'd be playing a climax swapper if it did absolutely nothing else, just a level 0 climax swapper, because most lists will need them, and it's always good to have it just in case. So the fact that it does something else and it does something else that's good is just really great. Normally, I don't play more than 1 climax swapper in a deck. I almost never do unless it's a list that really requires me to be looping climaxes or something like that. I have recently thought about upping her to 2 copies, not because I want to loop my level 1 combo so much, usually it's easy enough to do that, but because we're playing the level 3 combo that lets us go to level 4, I do like to sort of loop it as much as I can, and just having access to my climax swapper more often does help make that possible. But it's a really strong card. Being a bottom deck bomb means that she helps you deal with problem level 0s on your opponent's cards that do things when they hit the waiting room. Something like the Aqua Ricky from Hololive, that sort of profile. It's just a really great way to deny effects that your opponent might have been counting on. And the fact that she has 500 power means that she is always going to be reversed, at the very least. So it's just really, really great. A great profile overall. Again, on the best girl. Moving on to our level 1 cards, we have 4 copies of this Gluttonous Ghost Ana. She is on a choice combo. This combo is really, really strong. She is a 1/0 yellow choice combo that has a soul trigger, which is really, really great. Definitely something that Bushiroad has been giving us more often, which I think is the right decision. During your turn, if you have two or more other Adolescence characters, she gets 4,000 power, so she will be 7k before a climax and any other sort of buff. And then her climax combo is when she attacks. If you have the choice climax in your climax area and you have two or more other Adolescence characters, look at up to X cards from the top of your deck, choose up to one event or Adolescence character from among them, add it to your hand. The rest of those revealed cards go to your waiting room. X is equal to the number of Adolescence characters in your backstage plus 3. So even if you have 0 characters in your backstage, she will still be a top check 3, which is not the worst thing in the world. Generally, you should have at least one character in your backstage, especially if you're using the clean cut. So she will be looking at, more often than not, at least 4 cards from top of deck, which does make it sound like she's a very standard top check 4 sort of level 1 combo, which is something that's been around for a very long time, and that's not really new. However, it's not too hard in this set and this deck to make her a top check 5. You only need 2 characters in your backstage. And at that point, you're really just digging really, really deep into your deck. So the deck speed is really phenomenal on this card. Also, the fact that this character grabs events is absolutely, it's almost game changing. Most level 1 combos that do this, they're only grabbing characters. Oftentimes when we see a level 1 combo that does have the ability to grab an event, more often than not it will only grab a specific event and it will not grab anything else. And it might grab that event specifically from your deck or waiting room, but you don't often see the option to do either a character or an event. And Makeine actually is a set that has a lot of events. I generally don't play too many events in most sets, not because some events are bad, yes, but there are a lot of sets that have good events. But if they don't have a bonder or any sort of way to just grab them, I don't like having to up the number of copies I play just so that I can hard draw it. So this really fixes it. The fact that it grabs any event and it is not locked to a specific event, for example, it opens up a whole world of possibilities because there are good events in this set. There's a money counter event in this set. There are multiple good events that you could be playing at level 1. It's just a really, really strong card. Being 8k with the climax does make her, I think, a little bit above average in terms of the power lines for a level 1 combo. 1-0 with a soul trigger is just fantastic. There are a lot of those in Makeine. She's in the best color in the set, yellow, so it makes it really easy to play her in most lists because you have so many zeros that are going to be yellow if you're playing the better ones at least. Really, really great card overall. It's hard to say that she's the best card in the set when we have cards like the Lemon Ricky that we talked about, but she is probably my favorite combo of any level in the entire set just because of how versatile she is. There is another level 1 choice combo in the set. That one does require a reverse or at least an empty lane across from it. It does get pretty big, or has the potential to get pretty big. It is a 1-0 with a soul trigger. It does not grab events, and it does not give you any deck speed. It just searches your deck for a character. Not a bad card. Originally, I thought that card was better than I now think it, and I thought this was I never thought this card was bad. I just didn't think it was as good as I now think that it is. After testing it in the simulator a bunch and testing it in real life, this card is just so fantastic. I would be very hard pressed to build any Makeine list that does not have this level 1 combo because of just how much I love it and how versatile it is. Because we are on choice pants climax lineup, it is really easy to be looping your level 1 combo since all you got to do is trigger a pants, and then you could get back a choice combo that's already choice climax that's already in your waiting room. Just a really, really great card overall. I really do enjoy it, and I will definitely be playing that for the foreseeable future, regardless of what my level 3 combo will be. Next up, for the level 1s, I have 4 copies of this Lemon. She is from the trial deck. She is a really, really great card. She is also a 1-0 with a soul trigger that is in yellow. Again, yellow just put in a lot of work for this set. Her effect is during your turn. If you have another Adolescence character, she gets 3,000 power, so she'll be 6k before any other sort of buff, 7k with a climax. Then her other effect is when she attacks, you may pay the cost, which is to put one other Adolescence character from your stage into your waiting room. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an Adolescence character, add it to your hand. If it's not an Adolescence character, return it to its original place. This is just a phenomenal effect. Very often when I'm playing the game, I sometimes will be able to tri-field my level 1 combo. Very often, I will do 2 copies of her and 1 copy of her. It's just a great way to still maintain hand advantage without actually needing the climax or without having to pay any stock. The fact that if maybe you're having a weird game as soon as you hit level 1 and you're not quite ready to do your combo, maybe you don't have the climax or something like that, the fact that you can still be plussing and maintaining hand advantage without having to spend any stock at all is just really great. This lemon opens that up so much. Originally I was playing 2 to 3 copies. I've observed to 4 because she is a card that I pretty much want to see every turn as soon as I hit level 1 up until I get to level 3. She's also 1-0 with a soul trigger, which means even more soul triggers in the deck, pushing more damage throughout the game. It's great to grab her when I trigger a choice. Really strong card. While not everyone that is playing yellow at level 1 will be maxing 4 copies like I am, I would not be surprised to see that most decks that fit in yellow at level 1, I wouldn't be surprised to see them throw in some copies of this. It's a really strong card. The fact that it's in the trial deck, it feels very strong for a trial deck card. Most trial deck cards do not read this good. They're not quite this playable, and this is just a really great card overall. I really, really do love it. Sometimes it whiffs. Most of the time, it doesn't. So just really, really great card. Moving on to level 3s. In this version of the list, I do not have any level 2s actually. I do not play the level 2 on a changer. In this list, I feel like that card really only shines mostly in standby because it's kind of easy to play around. And there's no other level 2s in the current build that I really felt like putting in over just maximizing the cards that I'm playing at 1 and 3. So moving straight to level 3, we have this double peace sign Anna. She has 2 effects. Her first effect is very interesting. When she's placed on stage from hand, you get to pick one of the following 2 effects and perform it. The first effect is a stock shuffle. So your opponent puts all the cards from their stock into their deck, shuffles their deck, puts the same number of cards from the top of their deck into their stock. She does do that without having to pay any sort of additional stock or any additional hand. So for 2 stock, you do get a stock shuffle, which is about as good as it gets by stock shuffle standards these days. Some stock shuffle is not as good as stock swap, but I think it's still important if your set does not have stock swap. It's important to still play a copy of stock shuffle just in case. Sometimes your opponent will be in a situation where it's actually very beneficial to stock swap them if they leave you a small deck, but you know that they have some climaxes in there and they got a good amount of stock. You actually really do up your chances of hitting some of those climaxes, even though you are putting cards back into their deck first. It's not as useful if they've got a big fat deck and not that much stock, but it really, really does shine. I have been in a situation before where I had done my combo at level 1, and then whatever it was, basically I had like a 5-card deck with like 4 climaxes in it, and I thought I was so safe and secure, thinking I'm just going to triple cancel the following turn, because how could I not? I knew my opponent didn't have a stock swap. What I did not consider is that they had a stock shuffle and that they were willing to spend the stock to use their stock shuffle. And they put like 8 of my cards from my stock back into my deck. And sure enough, they hit 3 out of the 4 climaxes that were in there. So stock shuffles, depending, they are not as useful as stock swaps because they're a little more situational, but they can be very, very strong. So I do like to have a copy of that in whatever set does have it if it doesn't have a stock swap. However, this card does have some added utility to it, because if you don't want to do the stocks shuffle, instead you can draw up to 3 cards, and then you choose an equal number of cards that you equal to the number that you had drawn, and you discard them. I think this is incredibly versatile. You either do the stock shuffle, but if you're in a situation where it's not beneficial to do the stock shuffle, then you can still draw up to 3 cards, dig through your deck a little bit, dig for level 3 pieces like a climax, like your level 3 combo itself, whatever you might need. Gives a mild amount of deck speed. Um, it's nice that you discard the same amount of cards that you drew. Very often, when we see this sort of draw ditch effect, it'll say something like draw 3 cards, or draw 2 cards, or draw up to 2 cards, draw up to 3 cards, and then it will tell you you must discard, let's say, 2 or 3 cards, regardless of how many you drew. Which means you're basically forced into drawing that many cards, and sometimes you are in a deck state where you don't want to do that. So I like that this card does, it's very, very flexible. 3 is a really good number to be digging. You don't plus any cards because you do have to discard the same amount, but at a certain point it's really more about, just if you're using this, it's not because you're trying to gain some sort of card advantage, it's because you really need a specific piece and you don't quite have it. And your level 3 combo does require no hand to use either of its effects, so not plusing hand really isn't the worst thing. She also does have another effect, which when she attacks, you can pay 1 and she's a twin drive, which means you just pay the 1 on attack and then you trigger attack twice. I'm not quite sure why they felt they needed to add that part to it. I think it's already good enough on its own, but never going to complain to have a card that has an optional twin drive to it. Overall, very, very solid card. Next up, I have 4 copies of this undefeatable Gluttony Anna. Originally, when I was testing this in the sim before I actually got my cards in person, I was only playing a couple of copies at most of this card in any version. I have made some changes to my list, which we'll get to in a moment. This card is actually very, very strong, and because of the changes I made, I felt I needed to up the number of copies. She has multiple effects, the first of which is she gets 2,000 power for each adolescence character in your level. So if you are level 3, which, unless you're playing standby, which this list is not, would be the earliest you can bring her out, she will be 12-5 cross turn. 12-5 on an off finisher, which this card is very, very strong. And because we have the ability to go to level 4, she can potentially get up to 14-5 just based off of her own effect, which is a really, really huge number, especially when, since we're going to level 4, we would like to be able to survive some battles cross turn. Her other effect, her second effect, is when she's placed on stage from hand, draw up to 2 cards, then choose 2 cards in your hand, put them into your waiting room, and then you may put up to 1 card from the top of your deck into your stock. So this is sort of what I was talking about a moment ago with the double peace sign Anna, where she is a draw up to 3 and then discard the same number that you drew, which is very nice. This card draws up to 2, but then you must discard 2. So if you choose to not draw any cards, you still have to discard 2 if you play her out. It's mandatory, which is a little frustrating. 99 games out of 100 probably doesn't matter, to be honest. Still super strong. You are still effectively playing her for 1 stock because she does blind stock you when you play her out. The draw 2, ditch 2 is still really great hand filtering if you got too many climaxes or you need to dig for certain pieces, or dig for a climax, whatever it might be. I think it's a very strong card. Her last effect is when she attacks, you may discard any 2 cards. If you have 2 or more adolescence characters, you may pay that cost. If you do, you deal X damage to your opponent. X is equal to 0 if the number of adolescence characters in your level is 2 or less. X is equal to 1 if the number is 3, and X is equal to 2 if the number is 4 or more. This is really, really a very interesting off finisher. So she won't deal any damage if you are level 2 or lower. So if you did burn her out of your standby, you'll just do 0 if you want to pay the cost for some reason. When you're level 3, she might only be a ditch 2 burn 1, which isn't that great, but her real value comes that since we can go to level 4, she is a ditch 2 burn 2 once you hit level 4, assuming that you didn't put any climaxes or any events or non-adolescence characters into your level, which is probably not going to happen. Because she will be 14-5 when you're level 4, it's pretty feasible to think that this thing can just survive and then do its off finisher, deal 2 the next turn. Her deal 2 is not tied to the turn that she is played or placed on stage from your hand or anything like that. It is just whenever you want to do it when she attacks, as long as you meet the 2 or more other adolescence characters, conditioning can actually pay or cost the ditch too, which is really, really great. It makes it really easy to loop this, I found. It's a very, very strong card overall. I feel like your level 3 combo has a high stock threshold when you want to go to level 4. It is a pay 5, and we'll talk about that after this card. So I think they were very mindful that this list in particular needed an off finisher that did not require any stock, because then it would be a little too difficult to feasibly, despite the fact that we're playing choice, to actually do that pay 5 so that you can go to level 4. The fact that you're playing her out for 1 stock because she has her blind stock ability, the fact that she sits really big, it's just really, really easy to be looping this thing. It's a really, really strong card overall. It almost feels like it's overstated for a card like this, because it feels so almost free when you're playing it. It feels really good from experience while you're playing it. A really great off finisher. There is a reason why I upped it to 4 copies, because normally I wouldn't be playing 4, and I'll get to that momentarily. But in this list, we are playing 4, and I do expect this to pop up in some sort of ratios for any of the level 4 quote unquote decks that pop up for Makeine. Next up is our level 3 combo, which is this perfect body Ana, which is kind of a gross name, but whatever. It works with this pants climax. This is sort of the card of the set. This is the card that has had everybody talking since the set was first revealed in JP, however long ago it was now. It's the card most people think of when they think of this set. Oh, the level 5 card. Are you playing the level 5 card? Oh, that's the level 5 set, isn't it? When one card is able to generate so much of the attention, I think that's a good sign that the card has something to it. Some people might say it's a gimmick. I will say, when I first read it, I didn't think it was bad, but I did think it was sort of a gimmick. However, through testing on the simulator and now testing it in person a lot last weekend, there is a lot to like about this card. This card is very, very strong. The set has a lot of great ways to support this combo in particular, whether that was intentional or not on Bushiroad's part. It's a really great card, so let's get into what she actually does. Her first effect, she has no on-play effect, in case I forget to mention it later, which is unusual for a level 3 combo. Most level 3 combos, they will heal on play, they will salvage a character, they'll search a character, they will dig for a character, they'll do something on play that gives you some added advantage. She does nothing on play whatsoever. Her first effect is, if she is in your memory, you do not lose by reaching level 4. However, you still will lose when you reach level 5. Now, she goes to, her other effect is, when she's put into your memory by an effect of a card that is not perfect body Ana, you put her into your waiting room. Which means that basically, if any card that you or your opponent might do to put her into your memory, her own effect will kick in and it sends herself to your waiting room. So while Weiss is not a game where in general most of the time you can't put your own cards into memory unless Bushiroad specifically wants you to put your card into memory and it will give that character that effect. There are cards, more likely your opponent can play cards that could put this into memory, such as a level 0 blinker that might put a character to memory for the turn, which is something that we've been seeing a lot more of. Or if your opponent memory kicks it, for example, so with a memory kick backup, if you crash with this and then they use the memory kick backup and they send this to your memory, because she wasn't sent there by her own effect, she will actually go straight from your memory to your waiting room. So you can't cheese her into your memory without paying the climax combo cost through that either. So basically, there's just no way for her to be in your memory unless you pay the cost, because she'll just throw herself into your waiting room. Now, before I forget, since I already did, her first effect that says you don't lose by being level 4 while she's in your memory, that only applies while she is face up. So if she is somehow put face down while she's in your memory, you will lose if you're level 4. You'll automatically lose. If you're level 3, you'll still be fine, but you will lose if you're level 4. Now, on the English side of things, that's not as much of a thing. I feel like there is some card I read for some set that did put a card in a memory face down. However, on the JP side of things, there are some more cards that do that. Not many still, but it is possible to put an opponent's character from the memory face down. So it is something to be mindful of as the game goes on. I do not think most lists are playing anything like that or even have access to anything like that, but it is something that could pop up in the future as more sets are released. But now on to the fun part of the combo, the real meat and potatoes of it. At the end of her attack, if you have the pants climax in your climax area, you may choose one of the following 2 effects and perform it. The first effect is that during the turn that she's placed on stage from your hand, you may pay 5 and then put the top 3 cards of your deck into your clock. If you do, send her to memory. So that is the way that you get her into memory without actually having her go from memory to waiting room immediately. Sounds like a hefty cost. Pay 5 is a lot. From practice, it's very easy in this set and in this deck in particular to mitigate that cost. Putting 3 cards from the top of your deck into your clock, it is non-cancelable damage essentially, and you could put things like climaxes in there. However, there are ways to sort of, that we're going to talk about in a moment, to help sort of alleviate that a little bit. The other effect that you could choose, because it is a choose one or the other, is at the end of her attack you could just burn 2, which is really, really strong. Not that burn 2 is strong on its own, but if you can't pay the stock or you don't want to pay the stock, and let's say maybe your opponent's really in kill range, maybe they ate a lot of damage, you could just burn 2 as well. So you're still either doing your whole level 4 shenanigans with this card, or you are also still burning. You're not missing out on any additional burns like a normal level 3 combo would do by playing this card. It is not like an all or nothing thing. There is a little bit of versatility to it. And the burn 2 requires no stock, it requires no hand. It makes her very, very cheap. It's not unreasonable to triple this card and get 2 burn 2s off, and then presumably your third copy will send itself, you'll pay the cost and it'll get sent to memory. Being on pants, it's a nice trigger because you're going to be going to level 4. If these survive, or you could get another one out the next turn, because it is free to do the actual burn 2s. It's like pretty easy to loop this because you are on pants, because we have this one that lets you dig for 2 cards, so maybe you could draw into the climax. What is nice about this card, as a little aside, is that being pay 5 means that you will pay out all of the climaxes that you might have triggered leading up to the end of her attack. So if you do trigger, it's not the end of the world. You will be paying them out, so you'll still get whatever bonus effects you got from triggering your climaxes, and you'll be putting them back into your waiting room, waiting to be refreshed, which is nice. This card really is very, very versatile, though. I think it's just the fact that it's still, at worst, it is a burn 2, but at best, you are doing some combination of burn 2s and sending to memory. Is just really, really strong. Going to level 4 and not dying, like, it just goes against the basic fundamental rules of the game. And it's just, from my experience, I have had a lot of fun testing it. It's just really, really great. Something to be mindful about this card, there are a couple of things. First, if you put yourself to level 4 with this card's effect, because she does put 3 cards from your deck into your clock, you do not lose the game. The way that check timings work is, for anyone unfamiliar with it, the game, you do not lose the second that you hit level 4 or level 5, if this is in your memory. The game, quote unquote, checks the game state at different points in time depending on what's happening. These are referred to as check timings. So the game is not constantly asking, are you level 4? Are you level 4? Are you level 4? Did you lose? Did you lose? Did you lose? It does that after certain things. One of those things would be after you finish resolving an effect. So let's say you are 3-4 and you've got some cards in your deck and you would swing with this. At the end of attack, you pay 5 and you put the top 3 cards of your deck into your clock. You are now 3/7. What happens is because you're 3/7, it's time to level up, because leveling up is an interrupt type action, so you will immediately level up. However, at this point, the game is not checking to see if you are level 4 and have lost the game. At that point, you finish resolving the effect that you were in the middle of doing before you hit level 4. In this case, all it would be sending this Ana to memory. Once that effect resolves, the game then asks, okay, are you level 4? Did you lose? But at that point, the Ana is in memory. She is face up in your memory, and because of that, you do not lose. So that is a helpful thing to keep in mind for anyone that was unfamiliar with that interaction, because check timings can be a little confusing. It's something to definitely explore in like the comprehensive rulebook. But it is great. It's nice that you could kind of kill yourself without killing yourself, essentially, with this build. Another thing though to keep in mind, and this one, the first thing that we just talked about to keep in mind was sort of a beneficial thing to keep in mind. However, this next thing is sort of something that kind of just hurts you, and that is that you cannot use an effect if you cannot fully pay the cost. So normally that's fine. You pay, most people will be like, okay, I've got 5 stocks, so no problem, I could do it. However, putting the cards from your deck into your clock, that is part of the cost. So if you have less than 3 cards in your deck when this Ana attacks, you cannot actually use that effect. You need to fully be able to pay the cost in order to use the effect. Even though if those cards left your deck and went into your clock, let's say you had 2 cards left in your deck or 1 card and it went into your clock, you would go to a refresh normally. It's just not the way it works with this interaction. You need to successfully fully be able to pay it without factoring in, oh, well, I'll have cards to put in once I refresh. That's not how it works. You have to be able to pay the cost in full at the time that you activate the effect. Most of the time, it's not going to matter, but there will be some random games where you will just find that you sort of just ran out of cards in deck, and when you are attacking with the Ana that you want to send to your memory, you just won't have enough cards left in deck to satisfy it. You'll still be able to do the burn too, that's fine, but it is something to be mindful of. It's very important that you sort of are on top of your deck state. Because of that, I have added in, and I'm very surprised that I added in this card, because at first I thought it was a meme card, honestly. I added in 4 copies of this Perfect Body Achieved for the 15th Time event. What this event does is it costs 1 stock to use it. You cannot use it if you have 2 or less adolescence characters on your stage. However, if you meet that condition, what she does is you look at up to 15 cards from the top of your deck, you pick up to 1 adolescence character from among them, put it on any position of your stage, and the rest of the cards go into your waiting room. When I first read this, again, I didn't think it was bad necessarily, but I did think it was kind of more of a meme card where it's like, it's funny to use. However, when I was testing in the simulator before testing in real life, I found that very often going to level 4 and not dying meant nothing if I was in a really bad deck state. And sometimes I would just be in a bad deck state where it didn't matter if I was able to get to level 4. I was just out too many climaxes and had too much of a deck, and my opponent just had resources. And so I was looking for ways to help mitigate that. The first of which would be just like brainstorming your way to a new deck. There is no like sort of refresh in this deck, like on play refresh or anything like that, which some sets get. And then I read this card, and at that point I was sort of just like at the end of my rope and thinking that maybe the Ana combo just isn't too viable because of that problem. But I threw it in, gave it a shot, and I very quickly realized that this card is actually exactly what this level 3 combo needed. It gives you so much control over your deck. It is actually kind of insane. Your deck speed issue is basically non-existent if you play this card. 15 is a massive number. Being able to play out a level 3 character for only 1 stock is really great. Now, it doesn't really matter if you bring her out, though she is an option, because If you brought her out with the event, it only costs 1 stock. If you bring her out with her own effect, she only costs 1 stock. But it feels really great when you bring out your level 3 combo. That is why I'm maxing out on 4 copies of this, because I would like to just have as many copies of these level 3 characters in my deck as I can, so that I can use this event to not only control my deck state very precisely, because you do get to look at up to 15, it doesn't have to be a firm 15, but also it does bring out a character that I could use. The only thing to keep in mind is that when you use this event, the character that you play out is being brought out from your deck. It's not being brought out, it's not being like added to your hand and then immediately played out or anything like that. So you do miss out on effects that say when you play this card or place this card on stage from your hand. So you won't get the draw 2 blind stock 1 with this, but you'll still get everything else that comes with it. Now for the Ana, it is slightly relevant because when you use her climax combo, the burn 2 can be used. It has no condition other than being end of attack and having the climax. It has no during the turn you play it out condition or anything like that. However, the whole pay 5, clock yourself, go to level 4 stick, that effect you can only use during the turn that you placed her from your hand to the stage. So that is something to be mindful of. What I have found most often that I am doing is that I will just hard play 1 copy of her. Then I will have set myself up with my level 1 combo to have a couple of copies of my event, sometimes more. And I will then use those copies to bring out another one, maybe a third, or this one, or sometimes 2, whatever the combination might be. Ideally, I will be able to use it to get 2 more copies of her. Realistically, most of the time, I'll hard play 1, use the event to bring out 1 more, and then just play, get out another one of her, whether through her effect or through the event. Another really great thing about the event is the fact that it is only 1 stock. When you're level 4, if you're level 4, it means that the previous turn you had just paid 5, which is probably going to be the majority of your stock, even if you're having a really good game. That means you're going to be really low on resources, so it becomes a lot harder to play out your level 3 characters at that point, because you're just going to be low on stock. This card fixes that. It still allows you to play level 3s that will have potential burn damage for only 1 stock, and its condition is pretty reasonable. Needing 3 or more characters essentially is really not that big of a condition. From my testing, it's never been an issue. You're always going to be having brainstorms or whatever. It's very easy to do, but being able to do those things plus just go through 15 cards of your deck. There were multiple games when I was at my locals last week. I played a few games before the tournament started, and then I played it every round of the tournament, and we had 4 rounds on Saturday. I used this card aside from 1 game when I died from 2-0 because I just ate damage for some reason, but aside from that game, I hit level 3 every game, and I used at least 2 copies of this event every single one of those games. And most of the time it was an absolute game changer, a lifesaver. That extra stock that you are saving becomes so valuable, whether it's that turn or the next turn. I had times where I was just in a terrible deck state. I knew that even going to level 4, I would have lost to vanilla swings from 2 souls and maybe backed up by climax because I just was out too many. I canceled too much the previous turn, and I just had too fat of a deck, and there was just no way I was surviving. This card fixed it. Every single one of those games completely fixed it immediately for a single stock. Just super strong. It made it so that I can perfectly set up how many cards are in my deck, so that if I was in a bad deck state, I can get to 7 cards in my deck, which is perfect when you're playing the level 3 combo, because 3 attacks from a 7 card deck will get you down to 4, and then her climax combo, when she sends herself to memory, will get you down to 1 card in your deck, which means you just set yourself up for a refresh. Your climax that you use that turn is going back into your deck. Just really great. Just fixed his games, saved me multiple times. Not only did it save me, it still gives me an attacker. Odds are I never had a game where I did not see, when I was looking through my deck with this event, where I did not see a copy of her or a copy of her. What happened almost every single time was that I always hard played one copy of her, so that's two stock, and then I would have a couple of these events left. What would happen is I'd be going through looking at up to 15, and once I hit the first one, whether it was this one or this one, I would just sort of stop, because I knew that odds are there was another copy, there's another one of these very, very close in the deck. So I would stop. That way I wouldn't see the other copy, and then lose it to my waiting room. I would just play out the character, use the second copy of the event, and continue on with my all my deck speed and burning out a level 3. It feels very good when you have this on board, but playing 3 copies of your level 3 combo for what is essentially 4 stock, 2 to hard play 1, so that way you could still do the level 4 effect, and then using 2 copies of the event to bring out the other 2. It just felt so powerful. It felt really, really great. It took a lot of pressure off throughout the game, where if I had any other deck that was like pay 5, stock would be so heavy on my mind throughout the course of the game. This event single-handedly solves so many problems. It makes it so much easier to try field level 3s that still do deal damage. It makes it so easy to try field and still have enough stock to easily do the pay 5, clock yourself 3 times, go to memory with the Ana. I feel almost embarrassed that I thought this card was like, while not bad, not a card that I thought would ever see play this event, because it just has worked so brilliantly so far. It's like a hidden gem of the set, I think. It may not be the best. It kind of works perfectly because, aside from not being able to do the level 4 thing, she has no on play effects, so you never have to like feel bad that you didn't heal or salvage or search or draw or anything like that. So it does almost feel like they meant for these to go hand in hand with each other. Because we're playing the level 1 combo, the super busted level 1 combo that lets you grab events, it is so easy to just grab this card. I can't swear that I would still be playing this event if I did not have this card to grab it. If I had to just hard draw it, I would still like the card a lot, but I don't like when there is a card that I can't grab specifically, like an event. So it just all comes together so well, where there's so much synergy between all of these cards. I mean, this card grabbing the event, giving you deck speed earlier in the game, this card giving you a character and giving you deck speed later in the game, this card fixing your hand potentially and bringing out an off finisher for only 1 stock, whether you bring it out with her effect or with the event effect. And then burning 2 once you hit level 4, or still burning 1 when you are at level 3. Just this whole package, just if it doesn't read that good, just looking at it, just know that in testing, it performs much better than I thought that it would. It all just really comes together so well. Because of the massive package I am playing at level 3, we have 13 cards at level 3 when you factor in this, because we got the event, we've got the level 3 combo, and we've got the off finisher Ana here. Deck space is very tight. That's why I'm not playing any cards at 2. We have a lot of 4s in this deck. We got 4 of this at level 1. So deck space is tight. I will be testing more and more in the future. Other lists will not have this problem where your deck space is as tight, because we're just doing a lot here. There's a lot of pieces we kind of want to sculpt for, mostly the event and 1 copy of her and your climax, but there's just a lot to think about. But I think the deck gives you so many options. Maybe Bushiroad wanted you to play it this way, maybe they didn't. Either way, it works really, really well. I encourage people who own the sets to sort of give some of these cards a try. If you don't have it but you have the simulator, feel free to give it a whirl in the simulator. It's just, I am a very big fan of the show, so I was always very interested in making this deck work. Originally, I thought that the most meta combo would be the level 3 Kaju, the little sister combo, which is burn 2 if it's canceled, burn 2 if it's canceled, burn 2. I still think that card is very, very good, but after testing Makeine in person a bit, I realized that sometimes it's just hard to really meet that stock threshold, though this event does help. So I think that playing this level 3 Ana, because she has so much going for her and supporting her, it's just really, it just feels very good when you're playing it. Everyone that I went up against made some comments, some cheeky comment about me going to level 4, even if it was as soon as the game started. It's a fun mechanic. It feels fun to play. Maybe not so much for your opponent. I did have a game where I was just like in a bad, even with the event, I had eaten too much damage already, and I really wasn't in a good position. And I was able to get to level 4 with the Ana combo, and I still was just super low on resources and just whether it was stock in hand, and it just wasn't going great. But purely because I didn't die when I hit 4, I won a game that I had no business winning. And it just felt really funny. Maybe not for my opponent, but it's a lot of fun playing it. It is really synergistic. The only thing that I don't like about this list is that I can only play 50 cards, and there were so many cards that I wanted to add in that I couldn't because I just felt like from my testing, I needed to max out on certain copies of it. I do not think the ratios are off. I think it's important, obviously, to play 4 copies of her. The event, I think 4 copies is important because there's no way to salvage it. And you want at least 1 copy of it when you're going into your before you go into your first refresh. So it is important to have copies of it, 4 copies of it. Same thing with this, because a lot of the time we might want to bring it out through the event. We just sort of have to maximize how many copies are in our deck. There is a little wiggle room for ratios. I think especially at level 0, there's a lot of wiggle room for different cards because the set does have a lot of grade 0s in it. But it's just overall a very fun deck. Very strong. It is not overwhelming in its strength. That's not what I mean when I say that it's a strong deck, but it's a really versatile deck. It just feels really good while you're playing it. As soon as level 0. You may not do a lot at level 2, but because we're on Pants Choice, I found that I was very often just looping my level 1 combo once I hit level 2, and there's nothing wrong with that. It still provides deck speed, still gives me card advantage, still helps me push soul. Just very solid overall. If I had to make some changes, aside from what I talked about earlier with the Brainstorm, where I am getting the 3rd copy in and I'll be playing 3 copies of the Ana Brainstorm, I'm probably going to up that to 4. I'd probably cut one of the Lemon level 0 that is a dig 4 when it dies. I might add a 2nd copy of the Climax Swapper. Again, not because it's needed when I'm at level 0 or 1, but because once I get to level 3, it's really important to me that I am looping my level 3 combo with the Burn 2 after I hit level 4 to just continuously put pressure on my opponent and hopefully close out the game from that point. So having that, a better chance of having the Climax just really helps. But pretty much no matter what at level 4, you should be dealing multiple instances of 2, whether you're looping level 3 combo or you have a copy or 2 of this. Ditch 2 sounds like a lot, but because your level 3 requires no hand for any of its effects, it's not as big of a cost as it might seem. So just overall, I have had a lot of fun testing this. I've considered taking it to Philly just to be a little more casual. I'm not saying that this is a like tier S or a tier 1 deck or anything like that. But it is a lot stronger than I think a lot of people have given it credit for, including me, because before I watched the show but when I first read the set, I kind of thought the set wasn't that great. I kind of didn't think this combo was that amazing. I really thought it was just a gimmick. But in testing, it actually feels really good to play, which I enjoy because I love the show. So I really just like playing decks with characters that I really like, and Anna's my favorite character. There will be other decks in this that I will be doing a profile on, and they don't let you go to level 4 necessarily, but the set does have a lot to offer for anyone who is looking for something else. So look forward to those videos because they will be coming out soon. Until then, I do appreciate anyone that is taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was informative for people that are looking to get into the set or have been on the fence, or people who have bought into the set and maybe they're a little unsure of which direction to take it in. I hope this has helped. And if anyone has any questions for the deck, I would love to give some feedback or answer any questions anyone has about why I chose certain cards that were not covered in this or anything like that. So this has been Weiss Schwarz, and thank you for watching.